Hey there, I'm Ryan Nakamura from the Growth Syndicate. What if the key to unlocking your ultimate performance was hidden in your mindset, your relationship with alcohol, and your nutrition? Mike Green talks with A-Game Consultancy, who are revolutionizing personal development for high-performing business owners. Two entrepreneurs, Adam Mayhew and Adam Smith, have created a breakthrough approach that goes beyond traditional coaching. They're helping driven professionals shatter limiting beliefs, optimize health, and unleash their true potential. Listen in and find out why this isn't just another self-help program. This is your roadmap to peak performance.
We help people stop feeling like shit, ultimately. But really it's about, you've done it every other way. Now it's time for the A-game way.
You know, sometimes the universe sort of brings shit together. You know, if you don't want to believe that, maybe it's that we are all, from liquid to solid to people, vibration, and we're giving out these vibrations, and it happens.
Somebody else was so petrified of the father, not at the retreat, this was separate, but someone else was so petrified of the father used to wet the bed, and then the dad used to come in and rub the face in it.
Oh,
right? This is real shit that we talk about.
You can read all the self-help books in the world, but if you don't realise that even though I'm 50, well, I'm 60, but even though I was 50 or 40 or whatever, we don't realise it was something that happened as a kid.
I'd say majority of people that come is that they are not necessarily drinking too much, but they want to take a break, they want to stop drinking, but they are fearful of what other people will think.
Welcome to another episode of Success as a System. I'm here today with Adam and Adam from A-Game, and we're going to talk all things about health, wellness, getting on your A-game, things that stop you getting on your A-game. I'm going to delve into that a little bit more. Welcome, guys. How are we doing today?
All good, mate.
Very well, thanks.
Good.
Great to see you.
So we've known each other for some time now, and I've seen you guys grow that business and seen how you've pivoted it a little bit. But tell us a little bit about how A-Game started. Did you know each other before? What led to it, and what was the first iteration of A-Game?
Yeah, so we've known of each other for about 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
Friends of friends, that kind of thing. And we'd always hang out in bars and the gym and whatever together, you know, and we'd see each other. We always got on really well, but we were never very close. Lost a lot of touch through our 20s as life happens and all that good stuff. And then you went to Dubai, didn't you, for a few years. And then once lockdown hit, I was in hospitality at the time, miserable, working till 6 a.m, 7 a.m, at the age of like 30. And I'm like, this is not sustainable. So I always knew I wanted to help people, and I've been a personal trainer before, I've done managing people, coaching, etc. And I always thought, life coaching, that's what I want to do. So I started that business, and Mayhew was the very first person out of anyone to message me and say, congrats, this is amazing. And I got a lot of hate online from people that I knew because they didn't quite understand what I was doing, etc. And then I did that for about 6 months. Adam was actually a client of mine at one point as well, and as was another Adam, to confuse things further. So there was, and I just loved talking to them both. You know, I don't have favourite clients, but I had favourite clients. Yeah. So, you know, they were just, you know, a joy to speak to every day and all that kind of thing. And I said to my girlfriend, like, I'm pretty lonely. Like, I've missed being part of a huge team, and I think I want to ask these guys if they want to go into partnership. So I spoke to them both separately. I was doing more mindset / life coaching. Adam was doing nutritional therapy, and then the other Adam was doing personal training and physiotherapy. And all of our businesses were kind of stagnant. And I said, why don't we just come together? So I rang them both and said, I've got this idea. We'll call it A-Game, because we're all called Adam, but also A-Game's really positive. Yeah. What do you think? And they both said, yeah, straight away. So I was like, that was really easy. And then we formed it because we saw a bit of a gap in the market to cover mindset, internal health and physical health. And then we launched in 2020. 2020? Yeah. So we're in our fifth year now. So we've been going for, you know, this is year 5 now, and it's just gone from strength to strength.
So you get this call, you're doing your individual businesses. Was it an immediate, yeah, I'm a bit bored, lonely as well? Because one of the things that's interesting is, and I've often been in partnerships, mostly been in partnerships. And part of the reason is I know that banks love partnerships. And the reason they do it is because we have our highs and lows. And we also make good and bad decisions. In a partnership, if someone's low, you can lift them. If they're over the top high, you can ground them, kind of thing. But more importantly, if they're going to make a stupid decision in a partnership, somebody says, hang on a minute. So banks, investors love partnerships because they've got each other for all of those positive reasons. But also, it's bloody lonely at the top because you don't want to take all those problems home to your partners, because two things happen. One, you can never stop talking about the business then, because they want to help you, they want to talk about it, and suddenly instead of going home and switching off, you're going home to start up again because they want to know if you resolved the problem you shared with them. But also, you don't want to worry them if like, I'm getting sales or money's not there and so on, and you don't want to share that down to people in the business either, because they don't need to know that shit's going on. So partnerships are really good in that sense. But were you reticent, or was it a straight away, yep, let's do this?
Yeah, so I mean, I remember sending that message. It was around June, July 2020. So I was in the Middle East at the time. I'd just been made redundant from my corporate job because of COVID. But in the background, I'd been studying. I was back at university studying. I was studying at the weekends, and that's when I made the call. I'm going to start the business. This is it. I talked a good game for years about having my own business. But then similar, yeah, it's quite a lonely place when you start out at first. I was like building my course, an online course, which we still use to this day. And I reached out when I saw your message that you'd announced it on social media. I knew I was coming back to the UK anyway, of July 2020. And I remember messaging you saying, this is awesome. I think I'm on my way back to the UK. Let's meet up because I reckon we can work together. And then I remember the first version of my Alcohol Reset Challenge course, which is a course to take a break from alcohol. You're on one of the videos, so then that's how it all started, wasn't it? From there, yeah. But very similar. I was sort of on my own, building a business, never done it before.
Well, so many entrepreneurs, and when I do this podcast, we get great people on, yourselves included, and I'm often always, what's the system that made you make this decision, that got you over that issue? And often people don't talk about it as systems; they don't even realise it's a system. But normally, it is an approach, a behaviour, a system. But one of the biggest things that a lot of people have a problem with is, sometimes the universe sort of brings shit together. If you don't want to believe that, maybe it's that we are all, from liquid to solid to people, vibration, and we're giving out these vibrations and it happens. But, just the sliding doors of it, that you get made redundant, you're getting up this new business, you send a note saying that's awesome. It's almost like that if there is some universal vibration, it's conspired to bring you together, because that's important for both of you. But did you have clarity early on from the three Adams at that point, what you're going to do, how you're going to split it, who was going to be looking finance, marketing, selling, what were you going to individually, collectively be doing?
That was the other reason why I approached them both, to be honest with you, was that we all had different skills outside of the main skill. So we're like, what can we transfer over? I was good at selling and writing copy. Adam was good at all things tech and systems and procedures. And the other Adam was really good at social media. So I thought, we've all got something to offer outside of the mindset, the physical training, the nutritional therapy. And the system that we were following was something that I'd learned from Tony Robbins' team. So I went through my qualifications, it was called Knowledge Broker Blueprint, which was KBB, which is dangerously close to KGB. It wasn't that. So, but I was like, so now I'm a qualified knowledge broker. What on earth does that mean? So it didn't really mean anything, but that course was incredible because it showed you everything on how to sell your product, how to build it, what do you put the costing as. And they used a method around Facebook groups. So you would go into, say if I typed in the search bar, men over 40, I'd go into that, even though I wasn't over 40, and you just add value. You don't pitch, you don't say, I'm an amazing coach. You just say, here's 10 tips on how you can lose weight or whatever. Yeah. So it's all value driven. Then people might like it and comment, then you add them, then you message them in the backdrop. But it was a very arduous process. And I remember the first month we hired one of Tony's team, a guy called Chaz, who's a great guy. And he said, he's like, look, 'cause we've bootstrapped the business as well. We've never had any VC money, never had any investment whatsoever. And the only money we put in at the time was, I think it was about £1,000 each. It wasn't even that.
£100
£100 each.
Yeah.
But then we paid for the
Brilliant.
coaching. And he said, look, it's going to cost £3,000 for your first month, but I'm going to work with you. If you don't get that money back within 30 days, I'll carry on working with you. And we were like, oh, okay. So we set up this method where we set up 3 masterminds. We set up a Facebook group. We added anyone that we could into it, old friends, old colleagues, etc. And we did 3 free masterminds around, again, mindset, physical training, whatever. He said, on the second one, you want to start pitching your idea to them that you can work with you one-to-one.
Yeah.
So the first time we had maybe 70 or 80 people in attendance, which was great, on Zoom. Then we had maybe 50, and the last one we had 30. And we put the link in saying, look, if you want to work with us one-to-one, book a free call. And we had 15 calls booked. We're like, holy shit, this is amazing. But we're only charging £500 for our services at the time for 3 experts. It's like a 6-week program that we designed. And we also realised 6 weeks was nowhere near long enough to see lasting change. But anyway, not the first one over the line. We're like, amazing. The second one, I was on the call for about 2.5 hours trying to convince them because I didn't know how to sell the service. I knew how to sell drinks and food, but I didn't really know how to sell myself very well in that sense. And then that one converted, and we kept going. And long story short, 15 out of 15 converted, and we were like jumping around the house. We were like, we've made $7,500 in like 3 weeks. What the hell's going on?
I remember being like quite frustrated because I'm very process driven. I was like, Smith's like, oh, he sold another one. Like, what's his name? He's like, I don't know his fucking name. Did you get anything? Did you get a fucking email address or anything like that? And I was like, right, back to basics. Get a spreadsheet, get their names. How much did they pay? Oh, I think it was, he put a deposit down. I was like, oh, right, just I need to know when to send the next. We had no T's and C's, no nothing.
But I wrote the book Failure Breeds Success, and sometimes failure hurts. Sometimes though, you're just tripping your way to success.
Yeah.
And what I always try and do, I use the example sometimes of like a chef. So let's say it's Jamie Oliver. He's got loads of books out there. He's never written a fucking book in his life. But the reality is, he is a great chef. But when the books are written, it's somebody saying, look, we're going to observe you and we're going to interrupt you as you go through. So he's sort of a handful of this and a sprinkle of that. And just before he chucks the handful in, they say, hang on a minute, and they weigh it. Right, we call that 100 grams. It's like 95 or so. Sprinkle will put 5 milligrams or whatever it is. And they write the exact measured process and the system and the timing that follows it. But if we could kind of go back over what did work and say, what was the recipe we followed? What were the ingredients that made it successful? And capture that. That's the essence of success as a system, because clearly you were doing some shit right back then, and you've evolved it and you're doing more good stuff now and things right. But it's that is the essence that pretty much if anyone could encapsulate, they could probably duplicate some of that, because you were sort of saying it earlier. It's not about selling. It's just like adding value and sort of telling them how we can help them, and it's being real. You weren't following some overly scripted approach, which people do now. And then it's like, my name's Mike, and it's like, oh fucking hell! It's like, send me a robot or just send me the PowerPoint. I don't need the person. And I think that's one of the things that stood out for me when we first met on another podcast, actually, and then we'd done some work together. But is you guys are real, good, bad, and ugly. And maybe this is a good time to get into the, what you're focusing primarily on now and what you help people with primarily now, because it's not a subject that many people want to talk about. So tell us about what your core focus is now.
So, A game, obviously, it's all about staying in your A game. We tend to work with men, business owners, but some of our clients are females as well. But it tends to be business owners, men in their 30s or 40s. They're running a successful business, but they are just feeling a bit meh.
Yeah.
Now, what does meh mean? They know that they can perform in better, but they've probably read all the same self-help books that we have, but they're not necessarily following it. So we come from the stance of health feeds performance. You master your health, you will perform better. And it kind of goes into 3 areas. So we have mindset, alcohol-free living, and nutrition.
Right. So, I mean, let's maybe address them in that order, because earlier when we were chatting, while we were setting up, you're talking about the mindset and the limiting beliefs and that. We can read all the self-help books in the world, but if you don't realise that even though I'm 50, well, I'm 60, but even though I was 50 or 40 or whatever, we don't realise it was something that happened as a kid. It was maybe something my dad used to say to me, or an uncle, or some kids at school, that creates that poor mindset. It's still anchoring us. And actually, most people don't even know that yet, do they? So, to talk about that first stage, the mindset piece.
Yeah, so it can cover a wide variety of different subjects. The reason why we say mindset, alcohol-free and nutrition is because it's MAN, the acronym.
Oh, okay.
So MAN method, as it were, right? So again, let's make you said, we'll just call each other Mayhew and Smith for ease. But it's not just men, but typically they do come to us because there's a lot of men that live in quiet desperation. The reason why, again, by and large, it's 40-plus-year-old men. Their fathers were from the generation of when men were men, so it was typically the stereotype. Dad was out working, mum was at home. Mum may or may not have given them the love that they craved through validation and saying, well done, you're a good boy, or that's fantastic, I'm proud of you, etc. But then dad wasn't only physically absent, he was emotionally absent. So because of the way that his father probably treated him, and what the air quote upgrade is that their fathers would beat them.
Yeah.
Not everyone, of course, but, going off generalised things here, the slipper, the belt, the back of the hand. And then they don't want to do that to their kid. So the upgrade is, I'm just not going to talk about my emotions. I'm not going to hit them or anything, but I'm just not going to be there for them. So when they do come to daddy for, daddy, look at my drawing, or daddy, look what I did at sports day. Okay, fine. And they'd be so dismissive of it. So then what they do is, how do I get more love from dad?
Yeah.
I need to be like him. So I'm going to suppress my emotions as well. And
so
then
it's
I'm gonna go to
emulation,
mummy.
but not because it's positive.
Correct, because they just want to get the attention.
Okay.
So the mental health in a lot of children is actually worse in those that are neglected or pushed to one side, as opposed to those that are beaten, because at least there's a demonstration of attention and of love, albeit in a destructive way. So what I have to do with people is I have to understand their backstory, and I'd say a good 85% of the 500 plus people we have coached have got a similar story to this, because they often go, my upbringing was fine, Adam. I'm like, it doesn't matter whether it was fine, it's were your emotional wants, needs and desires met? And if they weren't, you're going to try to keep finding them. So what we see is a lot with high performing men, they just keep trying to get more. They keep trying to achieve because they're seeking the validation from external people. It might be their wife, their children or their friends now that they got from mum. But they're also trying to still prove that point to younger self that they are enough because they didn't get it from dad. So when I get the house, then I'll be enough. When I get the next car, when I hit 7 figures rather than 6 figures, yada, 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 I do everything for my kids and my family, Adam. No, you don't. You're doing everything to try rectify a destructive old belief pattern that was formed when you were a child. That's very, very frequent.
And do you see a kind of, do you feel or see or hear a kind of light bulb moment when some of this resonates with them, and
100%.
to what degree do they not want to talk? I mean, I can relate to all of that, stepdad who buggered off, you think, oh, I can't be lovable kind of thing, never came back, never even bought a Christmas present, birthday present, you literally left. Stepdad violent, used to hit me, just scared the fuck out of all of us, quite frankly. We're never allowed in the same room as him. We had to be quiet once he was home. Couldn't eat with him. All of these things. And why would you want to go back and think about that? Talk about that? Believe that has still got an anchor on you when you're decades older?
Yeah, well,
it must be hard to bring that out.
It is, yeah. And this is why we don't talk about it online, because what man wants to do that, right? What person wants to go back and open up those wounds? But it's not about creating compassion and empathy for them. It's about creating compassion and empathy for younger you. So the practice that I do with people is I get them to close their eyes. We put on relaxing music. It's not woo-woo or anything like that. It's just a way to direct your focus. This is why when you meditate, it's suggested that you close your eyes. You instantaneously become more associated to the memory or to anything. Because if you close your eyes now, all your other senses get heightened. It's just what happens. So if I can get them to do that and I say, look, you won't remember being born, you won't remember being 2 or 3 or even 4. However, what I then ask them questions about, do you remember the name of the primary school you went to? Oh yeah, it was called St. John's. Do you remember anything about St. John's? Oh, God, yeah, it had a big red door. Yeah, it had a big red door. What else happened? Oh, well, when I was 6, anything showing up for you there? Well, it's probably nothing. What is it? So we did this on the retreat last year, and one guy said, when I was like 7, actually, me and my friend were throwing acorns at cars going past. And I was like, right. My mum dragged me to a police station and asked the police to put me in a cell to teach me a lesson at the age of 7. And I was like, oh my God. Someone else said that...
And I'm assuming these are real stories that have come out as well.
Oh my God, yeah.
Not just metaphors.
No, these are very real, painfully real. Somebody else was so petrified of their father, not at the retreat, this was separate, but someone else was so petrified of their father, used to wet the bed, and then the dad used to come in and rub the face in it.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Right? This is real shit that we talk about. So what we do is, the exercise we get them to do is, right, imagine that dad has moved away, and imagine that adult you is now stood at the window. Yeah. Call over younger you. Now tell them what you want them to hear. You are loved, you are enough, etc., etc. Yeah. So it's not, my approach isn't therapy of lay down on the sofa and tell me every problem that you've ever had. It's getting to the horrible nitty gritty shitty quickly, ripping off that proverbial band-aid. Then we create compassion, empathy for younger you, and then we just get them to think about, right, you are not the vulnerable child anymore. You are the grown man. Yeah. So let's try channel the focus into what a grown, rational adult would think, as opposed to the vulnerable, scared child. Yeah, because, I can't charge that price. No one's going to listen to me. No one's going to buy my product. I'm never going to be able to sell my business. That's not a rational adult. That's actually a vulnerable child.
Well, back to this thing, and I use it a lot, and I've heard you guys use it, is that they say, well, if you say, tell me when you're 6, well, I just, I felt a bit scared, and they talk about thoughts and feelings, and we both in different ways say, okay, great, acknowledge that. It needs to be acknowledged, it deserves to be acknowledged, but a thought and a feeling is not a fact. Mm-hmm. Now let's look at the facts. Does that have to still anchor you? Were you weak? No, he's just a little boy. Were you bad? No, I wasn't. All of these things, but people are anchored by their thoughts and feelings when there is no fact to them being less unloved.
Correct.
And so on.
Yeah, I always say you're allowed your feelings and you're entitled to feel whatever you want. So that's fine. And we want to get that out, because I'm not going to judge you for your feeling. But we do then have to say, is that factually correct? And then they go, no. Okay, so what's a more helpful thought?
Right.
That's the best question. When I go on other podcasts and they say, what's one gem or what's the one thing? What's a more helpful thought? We had it a few years ago when we did our first men's retreat. We had 10 slots sold. We rather naively relied that everyone was going to show up. We didn't have any T's and C's or anything like that, because they're all existing clients, so we're like, everyone will be fine. One person dropped out. We're like, oh, not ideal. Then a set of brothers dropped out 3 weeks before. We're like, fucking hell. And then one guy dropped out the day before. And I rang my coach. I was like, I'm so annoyed. He said, why? I said, we've had fucking 4 people drop out. We've only got 6 people on the retreat now. He goes, okay, what's a more helpful thought? I said, well, I don't want to ignore how I'm feeling. He goes, I don't want you to. What's a more helpful thought? We've got 6 people on our first retreat. He goes, there you go. What's another helpful thought? We're going to get more time with them. Great. What's another more helpful thought? The testimonials will be better. The connection will be better. He says, what's another more helpful thought? Etc. So it's not false positivity rah-rah of jumping around the garden going, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. It's just making it more helpful. So we've had clients that have lost parents that, I said, what's been a more helpful reframe since the passing? And, me and dad are closer than ever. We've never had a relationship, but now mum has passed. She's free from cancer. She's free from pain. The more helpful thought is, I've got a better relationship with dad. Yeah. And if we can go to that extreme, we can probably go down the emotional regulation day to day.
These, to some people who aren't there yet, and I can relate to all of this personally, those seem like, it's a nice conversation, but actually it's fucking life-changing. And if we talk about success as a system, teaching yourself how to just, when you're feeling that, say, what's a more helpful thought? Because they'll replay that because you've put that in their head. It's there anchored as a system that they can use. Or shut your eyes, block some of that out, focus in a better place, blah, blah, blah. These little systems are the golden nuggets that or the ingredients in the recipe, if I use the earlier metaphor, that change people's lives, literally.
But it's like what you said though, but people they don't know that they're walking around with this, you know. So it might show up. The stuff that's, you know, it's the whole Tony Robbins thing: to heal the boy and the man will appear. But they're carrying it around with them every day. They'll snap at their kids. They get irritated at their wives. They'll, you know, kick off or whatever. They'll honk the horn when they're in the car. It's showing up in that way. Yeah. But they don't know actually there's something, like we just mentioned.
Well, and it's those foundations, isn't it? And because I do a lot in construction and trades, I often sort of say that most important part of a house, you know, or kitchen. No, I don't mean that about construction. Okay, where's the foundation? And you know what? It's so frustrating because you can spend bloody fortunes. I mean, especially this place, we got like 100 piles that go down 30 feet, 12-metre piles kind of thing, or 12 to 15 metres, that cost a fortune that we'll never see. But without that solid foundation, we can't build a solid house on it. Now, equally, if there's parts of that foundation which are poorly made, substandard, not on solid ground, that's a bit of this house that is unsafe and exposed in that sense. Well, I guess it's the same. They might not think it because they don't see it, because it's not relevant to how I'm living today, but it's the foundation that you're building your life on. So if you don't deal with some of those early limiting beliefs, issues, feelings, thoughts, and turn them into a better way of framing it or thinking it, it's so I mean, I'm conscious of time because we're probably done half an hour already. It always moves beyond me quick. But M for mindset, okay? That leads to other issues often later in life. And the second one you said being alcohol free. Talk about that.
Business owners, are you ready to break through the ceiling and take your income and your impact to the next level? Welcome to the Growth Syndicate, where growth gets real. Led by UK entrepreneur and business powerhouse Mike Green, this is more than just mentorship. This is a movement, a syndicate of elite minds, experts in law, media, branding, finance, wellness, leadership, and more, all united with one mission: your growth. Whether you're stuck at 6 figures or sprinting towards 7, the Growth Syndicate gives you the tools, the team, and the tactical edge to scale smarter, faster, and with unstoppable momentum. No fluff, no hype, just real strategies, real connections, and real results. So if you're done playing small and ready to unlock the business and life, it's time. Join the Growth Syndicate today, because where growth gets real, success gets inevitable.
Yeah, I think, well, I'm 7 years alcohol free and you are 4?
I'll be 5 in the summer, so yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, between us, we've got over 10 years of experience being alcohol free. And I think that, you know, we mentioned about how A-Game formed. Before that, that's kind of how I got into coaching, because my background is corporate IT, you know. But I was, you know, high stressed, working in the corporate environment, chasing up the ladder, all that. And I wasn't an alcoholic, but I was using the drink at the weekends. Yeah. Most weekends were binge drinking until I took a break from alcohol. And then that shifted absolutely everything. So that plays a part in we don't force it onto clients, but it is a lot of our outward facing marketing, because we're all about being on your A game and performing at even higher levels. And if you will perform at higher levels if you stop drinking.
Expand on that a little bit though, because most people would say, oh, the odd drink's all right, or oh, you know, in my trade we always go to the pub at 3 o'clock on a Friday, or you know, it's the only time I get with my dad if I go for a drink. So there's always this, and it's not just justification, it's routine, it's habit, it's kind of like, all right. So how do you then address that might be one of the systems, negative systems, that's holding someone back? Do they come to you with that as a challenge, or do you is it encapsulated in a package of getting them back on their A game?
I think I'd say a majority of people that come is that they are not necessarily drinking too much, but they want to take a break, they want to stop drinking, but they are fearful of what other people will think, fearful, like the example you just gave then about going to the pub and seeing their colleagues or friends, and how are they going to be without the drink. I'd say that's the number one fear of when someone wants to take a break from alcohol or stop drinking. And you don't necessarily have to be an alcoholic. You know, we don't work with alcoholics, we work with business owners, high performers, but they know that they're using the drink as a to air quote help them after a stressful day. So some people say to me, Adam, I drink because I'm stressed. No, you're stressed because you drink. It's the other way around, because that's what the booze does.
Well, and earlier when we were chatting, we were talking about A game, being on your A game, optimizing your performance. And I can't remember which one of you said it, but you talked about most business people, entrepreneurs, senior managers would say, how can I improve my performance by 5%? Is that going on a course? Is that using AI? Is that, better financial control? And actually, they're not even considering that drinking a bit less or not drinking could give them more than 5 or 10%, because suddenly they've got the mental clarity, they've got the energy, they've got the physicality, they're feeling better about themselves. I mean, talk a little bit about that and how, and some of the success stories, because I know you've had loads of.
Yeah, well, people say moderation as an argument. So they say, you're wrong, Adam, it's all about moderation. The problem with that as a blanket argument is it's too subjective, because you'll always have that one person that drinks 2 beers a month, they're absolutely ripped and they're killing it in business, and they'll say, I can do that, so therefore it's about moderation. In actual fact, you're probably in the top 1 percentile of performers in the country if you're making hand over fist money and you're in great shape and your relationships are good. Well done to you. And it doesn't mean that that's the case for everyone as a blanket statement. So saying I can do that is fine, no problem. But one person's moderation is 1 beer a week. That's 52 drinks a year. Someone else's is 2 beers a night, which is 730 beers a year. They're vastly different. And we don't care if people drink. So we'll never say you have to, or we'll get on our soapbox, this is the only way. But if you do want to perform better, you will see results when you do take a break or remove it. That's all we're saying. And you could be even more successful. If you don't care about that, that's again fine. But I would say 90% of people come to us and say, I want to stop drinking. And the difference is with booze compared to, say, moderation when it comes to junk food or whatever, it's a toxin and it's going to react differently with everybody neurologically or cognitively. So someone might not be sleeping very well, which therefore means that they're more agitated with their children. When they get agitated with their children, they then have an argument with their partner. Now they're arguing with their partner, they're not going to have as much sex. Then that might lead them to other poor choices, etc., etc. Somebody else might not be hitting targets at work because they've had bad sleep, because now they're anxious, etc. So it can impact people in a million different ways, and we're not talking about those that go out on a weekend and drink 15 pints and get absolutely smashed. We are talking to mainly the mid-lane drinkers who are just going, ugh, because they'll say to us, I'm performing fine. I go, how do you know? Have you ever abstained for longer than 30 days? And they go, no. And you go, well, that's like a 5-year-old saying, I don't like carrots, having never tried them. Because if you haven't done it, you don't know how good you can perform. You don't know how good you can feel. And that's what we're interested in. We're not here to preach to anyone or say that alcohol's bad or you're bad for drinking alcohol. And there's loads of successful people who are in great shape and feel amazing that do drink. But the big but is that if you are wanting to get that extra edge, no matter where you're at, and we've worked with professional athletes performing at the highest level, and they've even increased their performance since reducing 1 glass of red a week. It'll probably work for average Joes too. I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I class myself as average Joe, for example, right? But so
we don't say, right, gotta stop. We say take a break, because that's more manageable to think about. I can do that. I don't know if I can do this, but I can do that. And I'm assuming I know, because we talked about it, you see some incredible results. And earlier, when I was talking about, okay, what examples might you be giving? Sometimes it's just one statement or a couple of words that you use, and I think it was turning should into could and curiosity. Explain some of that to us, and in terms of how you help people reframe the fact that they think, well, I couldn't give up.
Yeah, well, I think I need to understand what their positive association to alcohol is. And they might go, connection. Okay, what do you mean? Well, social interaction. Would you agree that in time, not right this second, because I need to meet you where you're at. That's a key component. We're not going to say just be alcohol free, mate. I need to meet them where they're at. They're panicking, they're nervous, they're thinking, how do I socialise on Friday night? So we say, look, you stood in a bar, they've got a glass that's got liquid in it. You've got a glass that's got liquid in it. They look the same, they taste the same. Theirs has got alcohol in it, yours doesn't. It's an alcohol-free beer. Do you reckon we could give that a go on Friday night? Yeah, what else could we do? So there's one guy in particular, I won't say his name, but he started with us 2 weeks ago. And he's like, I'm really nervous because alcohol's been a crutch for me. I said, a crutch? I said, yeah. I said, what do you associate to a crutch? He said, support. I said, me too. If I broke my leg, I'd want crutches, right? Because they help me. Is this helping you? He goes, no. I said, so therefore it's probably not a crutch then, is it? It's like, oh my God. So I've just changed a pattern in his mind straight away.
Create a new neural pathway.
Correct. Neuroplasticity is an amazing thing. And if you decide to accept that as new information, you can change your life. If you keep meeting that with resistance because of how you feel, you're going to remain stuck. So anyway, we went on to something else. Said, yeah, I just feel like it's a comfort blanket. So when I think of a comfort blanket, I think of a child needing to do it to reassure them. Is this reassuring you? Is this making you comfortable? No. So it's not the comfort zone. It's not a comfort blanket. It's the familiar zone and the familiar blanket. Because a lot of people, when they don't want to change or they're not open to suggestions of change, is because they're associating more pain to the change than they are the pain of staying the same. So the overweight person is thinking, oh, I've got to go to the gym and I've got to get up at 6 and I have to eat healthily and I have to drink more water. They don't go, oh, my vital organs are knackered and I can't walk upstairs without blowing out my arse. And, oh my God, I don't have no confidence, so I can't have sex with my partner. So what we have to do is hold up the mirror with compassion and empathy. We don't judge them. I'm not saying, mate, you do what as a crutch, you're an idiot. I need to ask more questions and unravel it. And some of the benefits are amazing, aren't they? Like, people say to us, like, their wives will message us and say, I feel like I've got an upgrade on my husband. Like, what have you done? The guy I just referred to that's been with us for only a couple of weeks, his CEO put him in touch with us because he's the MD, and he said, what the fuck have you done with him? He's like, I can't believe it. He's coming into work like a dog with two dicks. He's got so much energy.
Well, and on the wife bit, or husband, whichever way, but obviously it's a lot of men that come to you guys. But I think I remember from Christmas, you were saying that some people were, from knowing other wives, were talking about buying their partners some time with you guys because they wanted the upgrade too, kind
Correct.
of thing. So there's nothing stopping them getting some help for their partner.
Yeah, we've got another American client that you're working quite closely with, don't we?
Yeah, he's absolutely killing it. He's about 6 months alcohol free now.
Wow.
Very senior in the company that he works at. He's like VP and married, 2 children. Was he drinking too much? I'd say he was still a mid-lane drinker, but caught up in that habit. He'd finish at work, he'd drive home. We worked out exactly what he did. It was all habitual, what he was doing. He'd go drive home, he'd stop off at the liquor store, it was in the States. He'd also then get home and then, walk through the door, say hello to his wife and children, do the whole bedtime routine. Then it was sit down, drink. It's the same routine. So we had to break this habit, we had to understand, but we're not just going to go, right, let's just, change everything. No, we're going to hack this habit now. So what we're going to do, can you go home a different way and not drive past the liquor store? Yeah, I know another way. Perfect. Because that was one of the triggers. Okay. I'm not going to get into details of triggers at work, but that was one of the things to go, there's the cue there. Right. I'm going to go into the liquor store and get the alcohol. What was the other one? It's sitting down when he's sort of, put the children to bed and then turning on Netflix and then Netflix goes, open up the beer. Right, we're still going to do the exact same. All we're going to do is swap that beer out for a 0%. That's it. So that's called habit hacking. So we hack the habit. You still get the same placebo.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So then we just start like this.
But also, often people talk about baby steps and that, and people fear of, I've got to just stop fucking eating, or I've got to go to the gym, or I've got to never drink again, or never go to a pub. But it's not. It's creating a realistic shift that then they might go full don't need that space anymore. Actually, I'm happy to have water or coffee or whatever it is. But it is doing it in a route that is realistic, I guess.
Yeah, it's the shift when they start telling you why they shouldn't drink. You're like, now you've got it. So, another guy about only 3 weeks ago, I think he signed up, but he does he goes to MMA competitions and he does the comparing of it, whatever. He loves it. And I said, I'm going to set you a challenge. Use effective communication before you go if you feel nervous about it. Or you can tell a white lie and just say, look, I'm on antibiotics. It kills the conversation and the peer pressure stone dead. So he went to it, absolutely loved it. And he's like, bloody hell, drunk people are annoying, aren't they? Because he's 36 and he's never not had a drink over I think he did dry January once, but he said he was really white knuckling it. So he's not done it with a proper structure since the age of 15, 16. So for 20 years, he's just gone on autopilot by and large, apart from this 30-day break, coupled with no accountability, no supportive community, no structure. And it's like, they just keep bumping, because he didn't go out at all through his 30-day break. I said, I want you to put yourself in that social environment when you feel ready. And he did. He's like, they keep repeating themselves, they're bumping into me, they're shouting in my ear. He's like, why would I go back to drink? I was like, now you're getting it. Now the penny's starting to drop.
But also, I mean, and I do that a lot now, partly because the alcohol-free beers are fucking nut. I mean, zero Guinness.
Oh, it's great, isn't it?
It's lovely. But also, I wake up in the morning and it's like, I'm ready for it, as opposed to, oh, fucking hell. And even if I wake up, it's not because I've got to perform tomorrow morning. It might be a Saturday and I've got the day off. I just don't want to wake up feeling like that.
But this is a huge part of our coaching, is now you're stepping into a new identity.
Right.
So the previous identity wasn't serving you, drinking, whatever, maybe unhealthy eating, high stress, everything else, anxious. So a key part in our coaching is, who are you becoming? Who do you want to become?
Yeah.
And it's all about stepping into that new identity, especially just by taking a break from alcohol. Your identity is going to shift significantly.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just so obvious, so simple. Anyone can do it. It's
simple, but not easy.
No, well, and that the truth in most things, that it's about a decision, mindset, if you like. It's about a plan. Okay, I haven't got to stop going to the pub, but I can swap out that drink. And then it's about embracing, I guess, the feeling the next day when you're not feeling how you might have been feeling before, and you start to see the results, and then you step into a new you as such. But next stage of the MAN is nutrition.
Yeah, nutritional therapy.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so, a part of performance, and it's often overlooked, is the food you're consuming every day, So the nutrition side is mainly around nutritional therapy. Now, this is not, here you go, you're just going to eat chicken and broccoli and kale smoothies. It's not any of that shit. No, it's all, we don't do any meal plans or anything like that. It's all centered around the individual. So the plan that we've sort of what we've been doing, like the MAN method, it's not like a straightforward plan. It's very tailored to that individual of where they're at. And again, with the nutrition. So the first thing that we do is the client gets a blood test or a DNA test, because then we can go straight to the data and it's not just guesswork. Yeah. And then from there we can...
And it's very personalised.
Very personalised, yeah. Cause it's all about the health of that individual, and everyone's unique. And especially their relationship with food is unique as well. So, when it comes to diet, there's no one size that fits all. Although there's loads of diets out there, it doesn't work. It'd be great if it did. But as I mentioned, very tailored to the individual. We can understand, what they're currently eating at the moment, understand their internal health, blood markers and things like that, to then determine what nutrition they should be consuming.
And give us a couple of examples of the kind of things that this highlights. Does it highlight that their body's 10 years older than their biological age? Does it highlight intolerances? For example,
I was working with a corporate lawyer a couple of years ago. Very high stress, 65 hours, 70 hours a week. A lot of caffeine going in. Food was going in, but a lot of it was sort of chocolate, grab and go. Blood test results came back. Low vitamin D, low iron, low B12. I said, you're running on empty here. You're literally running on caffeine and chocolate. And if you carry on this trajectory, you will end up in hospital. Yeah. But when I showed this person that results, that was the wake-up call.
And, I've known at my age now, 60, I've got lots of people who have been through serious illness, people who have even had the big C and all of those things. Knowing is very reassuring. Even if you know you've got something, I knew I was bloody ill. And it does change. At least I can say, now I know what can I do to address that. Or even if I've got a finite amount of time, what do I want to do in that time? But it's the not knowing, but feeling bad or feeling ill or feeling tired. And certainly, I probably going back 10 years now, but similar thing. I had the blood tests and everything, and testosterone had dropped and obvious things, but I'm just thinking, I'm fucking 50, of course I'm going to feel tired, of course I'm going to like be knackered more often or whatever, and we just I think because we are living longer than parents, albeit the quality of life might not be there, we don't question these things. We accept it when it is something that can be interrupted, changed, and supplemented, I guess.
Yeah, that's it.
It's the story, isn't it? People tell themselves, you know, the most common thing, we've made it a non-negotiable now. You have to have functional testing if you want to work with us, because we were becoming, I'd say, a bit too agreeable when it came to this with people. They go, oh, my nutrition's fine, Adam. You know, some people go, I go to High Rocks and my nutrition's fine. And like, it doesn't matter and you don't know. So I go, how do you know? It's a great question to ask people, like, because it's not, how do you know? It's just, how do you know? How do you know what? How do you know nutrition's fine? Well, I feel all right. How do you know? Because you don't know, again, how good you can feel unless you've done it. So the blood test is a nurse sent to your house, and they're literally anywhere in the UK within 48 hours. We can send them to your house. They can take your blood for you. And that's sent off to a lab that are in collaboration with the biomarkers that come back as how many?
49
biomarkers. Do you know all your biomarkers? And they're like, no. So now we've made it a case of, right, we have to do this because we, like we said earlier, facts and feelings.
Yeah.
You might think that your diet's fine. Let's check and let's see how it's reacting, because you might be consuming something that's not agreeing with you. It might be that when you consume pasta, you actually get quite a deep burning sensation in your chest. So you might have an intolerance to pasta, or it could be just carbohydrates in general, for argument's sake. We don't know until we see. And then it's all around negotiation. We're not telling you to do anything because that doesn't go very well, as you can imagine. Are you already having overnight oats? Yeah. Could you have some blueberries and some apricots on it for the antioxidants? Yeah, I could do that. Fantastic. Then you're having 3 coffees. Could we go down to 2 short term and 1 can be decaf? Yeah, I can do that. And then we start to reduce.
I really like the realism of meeting people where they're at and then taking them on a journey, as opposed to expecting them to be able to go from here to way over here.
Yeah.
But conscious of time, if you could sum up a game in terms of why someone should maybe reach out and what it can do for them, what individually, what would you both say?
You can go first.
I thought I was waiting for you.
Yeah. I don't mind, so I can go first. We help people stop feeling like shit, ultimately. But really, it's about, you've done it every other way. Now it's time for the A-game way, because we do cover everything. We are compassionate. We are empathetic. Yeah. We have been through our own shit. You know, we don't have all the answers, but we do have a lot of good answers to help people. So if you ever feel just meh or a bit stuck, or you know that there's more, then we're only a message away from changing your life.
Nailed it. Done. This is the problem, isn't it? Stole all my words.
and if you could go back to yourselves, you've been doing this, say 5 years, 10 years ago, what would be the first step that you'd take on this MAN journey? Or what would you say to yourself 10 years ago?
Stop drinking alcohol. That was the thing.
That'd be the number one.
That'll be it. Yeah, definitely. Stop drinking alcohol.
Mine would be give yourself permission to stop feeling like shit, because you don't need to prove anything to anyone. That was a lot of my issue, whether it was, trying to have one night stands, whether it be going out and getting shit-faced all the time, or just trying to prove a point, trying to outlift people that are far stronger than you in the gym. Everything was in an attempt to be validated and to seek approval. So you don't need to seek that approval from anybody.
Well, and I think, that is testament in terms of, one, you guys have built a great business, but two, I only know because we work together, but You've both got really solid relationships now. You've got 2 kids, kind of thing. So it really has changed your life, not just in the sort of business sense, but in the holistic sense. And obviously, you're both in good shape as well. So, how would someone connect with you, contact you? Where will they find you?
Probably LinkedIn. We post on there pretty much every day. If you search, you're probably better off searching Adam Mayhew than you are Adam Smith, because it's the most common name on the planet. But if you type in Adam Smith A Game on LinkedIn, same for Adam Mayhew, you should get us. We're on YouTube, A Game Consultancy. We've got our own podcast, which is called A Game Unfiltered. We're on Instagram, kind of loosely, aren't we? But really, it's through YouTube, podcast, or LinkedIn, I would say.
Brilliant. Well, listen, guys, I found it really helpful, and I'm out tonight. I'm going to be on the alcohol free. I'm definitely going for it. But,
Good man.
Great to hear.
If you've enjoyed this as much as I have, do like, do share, do subscribe. But more importantly, what are you going to change about your health, your future, your performance going forward? One decision can absolutely change your life. Make that decision. Thanks very much.